Are we all going to go down to Panorama Bar? We're like, aye, you lads get the first taxi, we'll get the next one, don't worry. We got down there, got in, we didn't.
Really? No way! I've not seen you in a good 6-7 years.
Decent length of time.
But I haven't seen this hair.
What I've done is I've just camouflaged my hair a similar colour to my scalp so you cannot see the gaps in it. I can remember getting really drunk, giving somebody who I thought was homeless my denim jacket. Half an hour later, he was in ordering a pint next to us. And I was just like, what the hell is happening here? Like, am I going to be the headliner on this, or am I going to be second headliner? What's the backstage like? You know, complaining about the level of car you're getting and all that type of stuff. And I was like, this isn't very underground. Like, this isn't what I got in for. Yeah. ITN News got in touch about it. I was on Jeremy Vine the other week, which is a bit mental as well. Like, in the past, why would I want to talk about it? These people don't get it, and you're going to get portrayed in a weird light. Now you kind of feel a way to say, well, I kind of have to talk about with EDM. All of a sudden, a lot of money came into this. If you can do a party for 300 people at this ticket price, imagine you did it for 30,000 people. Yeah. There'd be a lot more money in it. So it just became a capitalist pursuit. Instead of learning our values or the values that were passed on to us, they've learned the values of X corporation. It's capitalism at its purest form, which is like, let's make the maximum amount of money go into the hands of the minimum amount of people.
Yeah, that was a wicked conversation with Will, that Jacky, and I'm buzzed up with the people that are subscribing. But do you know, YouTube keeps notifying me saying that 75% of people that watch the show regularly are still not subscribing.
But I'm not surprised, because I keep getting notifications from Spotify and Apple and all the other audio platforms to saying that we've got about 75-80% of people aren't subscribing either. And little do people know that it's free to subscribe.
Yeah, because my mum, that's what she said to me. She went, I'll subscribe. It doesn't cost me, does it? And I was like, no, you've got an account. Just click the subscribe button.
And if people subscribe, it helps us get bigger guests, grow the show, and just keep bringing value to people who are listening. So if you're listening to this now and you haven't hit the subscribe button, go over and hit that button for us now, and we can do all the things that we've just said.
And thank you to everybody that's subscribed so far, and let's continue.
We appreciate it. Let's go.
That was it.
Right, perfect.
So it was me, my mate Harry and Hammer, and we were stuck with these 4 lads because it's been a birthday from County Durham, Darlow.
My neck of the woods.
Exactly that. But you know, like all sort of loud belts, 2 buttons down on the shirts type of stuff and all that.
Best of British.
And they're like, are we all going to go down to Panorama Bar? We're like, aye, you lads get the first taxi, we'll get the next one, don't worry. We got down there, got in, we didn't.
Really? No way.
Totally served us
and
right.
he's played there 10 hours at a time.
That's exactly. They don't give a fuck, man. It's
yeah, that's. Are we rolling, George?
We are. I'm just going to change this one setting.
Cool.
We are rolling.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I've been twice, got in, and everyone who I was with didn't get in.
Yeah.
So I've been with one person out of like 6 or 7. We all split up, as you know, like you always go in little groups. But they're not getting in thing is so frustrating, because we always go for, or we used to go for that. That was the pinnacle of the weekend.
Yeah.
And you maybe have a little do on Thursday, maybe Friday, and Saturday you're going straight there, or Friday we'll go straight there the night. And if people don't get in, it's like, well, what the fuck did I come here for? That was what we were going for, to go to Panorama or Bergame. But
so I was living in Berlin when I've attempted. So I didn't really get knocked back. I think other than that one time that I think of.
That's
and I go pretty regular, but like the people I go with, if you're going with Berlin regular, so we're in every weekend, like the doormen do get to know that you're kind of sound most of the time, so you're kind of all right. But if I was travelling over, I think anybody's nuts. If you're not on somebody's guest list, I think like the capability, the heartbreak of like not getting into something you've flown to another country for.
And queued for maybe 2-3 hours.
Yeah.
You're queuing. We queued in like, it must have been like -10. It was like something of January. It was like, I went for my birthday. It was like my 26th birthday. And we went at about, I can't remember what it was, we were queuing for 2.5 hours, and it was -10. You know, like like ice. You had to like walk like this everywhere. Gets fucking cold in Berlin.
It does, like.
But anyway, sorry, Geoff.
Yeah,
welcome. We're rolling. We've been rolling for 5 minutes.
Okay,
straight in. How you doing, mate?
I'm really good. I put a little bit of product on my hair before I came out just to look pretty for you, and I fell asleep with my head against the train window. So thankfully you've got the other angle, because I think I'm all kind of sticking up on that side. But other than that, I'm absolutely perfect.
Well, mate, I've not seen you in. We were just talking before. I don't think it's 10 years, Geoff.
Maybe not.
I think I might have seen you in Newcastle in passing, maybe 7, but it's still a good 6-7
Like a
years.
decent length of time. Like,
And a lot's changed, and I haven't seen this hair
Right,
in
okay.
real in real life. So
I was
this
just
is
saying,
new.
it's been an attempt, just like, so he's taken the brave way out and taken it off, whereas what I've done is I've just kind of camouflaged my hair a similar colour to my scalp so you cannot see the gaps in it.
I like it. You like what you've done there. It's really clever.
no.
I think you're serious. I
Thanks
actually
very
think you're
much.
serious.
Well, it looked all right. So like I started bleaching my hair when I was about 36, and it looked all right about 36. I just turned 45 2 weeks ago, and
you're the
now,
same age.
yeah, we were just saying that, but it was one, and I like. The thing is now, it used to be like in my mid-30s, like bleach it a bit white and it looks a bit of a statement. Now people just think I've got white hair. Do you know what I mean? There's no element of like, oh, that's edgy. I like what he's done there. Say, oh, it must be just naturally lost all the colour.
In the 90s, it was very fashionable, innit? Gascoigne-esque.
Yeah.
Gascoigne had it
Gaza.
on. Remember that
The
picture
Gaza
I
cut.
showed you and me last night?
Well, you don't keep doing these
Eminem.
remembers because I'm fucking 10 years younger than you two. So don't be like, oh, do you remember this? Well, no, I wasn't. I was in fucking year 3 actually. So,
Wee baby.
well, Geoff, I think I might have touched base with you. I think it was maybe last year, back end of last year, and we actually both noticed when you'd put. Correct me if I'm wrong, but was it on BBC? You did something, or was it Channel 4 where you were talking about? Was it King Street Social?
Oh, there was ITN News got in touch about it.
Right.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I mean, I was on Jeremy Vine the other week, which is a bit mental as well.
Yeah, there's been all sorts happening.
I mean, there's probably an element where they're like, oh, we'll get somebody from the northeast, like just because we never get anybody from the
He's been
northeast.
humble.
So it might come from that point of view. But yeah, I don't know. Like we've ended up, like I've been kind of vocal in the last few years about the state of clubbing at the moment. Or not the state of clubbing, but just the way that people are relating to nightclubs versus giant venues. And for some reason, they keep on wheeling us out on telly programs and radio programs. I had the One Show on the other week asking if they wanted to cover us. I don't know if it was meant to be last weekend, so it didn't happen. But it's always really weird when something like that gets in touch with you, because you're like in the past, I was quite militantly underground, and I'd be like, well, why would I want to talk about it? These people don't get it, and you're going to get portrayed in a weird light. But now, because of the stuff we do, it's all wrapped into the activity in the town I live in, and it's really in with the cultural regeneration and the economic regeneration of the area. It's bringing loads of people in. So now you kind of feel a way to say, well, I kind of have to talk about it, because like me not talking about it to play it cool actually has a negative impact on the kind of growth of the things that we're trying to do for the community as a whole. So I ended up on ITN talking like I was like this, and did a whole nice 10-minute interview with them, and then enjoyed the 35 seconds that they played.
I know, it's mad.
It's amazing.
They record you for ages and they just take like 20 seconds of what you've done, just like the little bits. But the reason I said that is because, I mean, let's give the listeners who don't know who you are a little bit of context. So maybe just a little bit of who you are, what you've done, because then I want to talk about everything we just spoke about there. But yeah, just to start with who you are and who are you? Who are you, Geoff?
My name is Geoff Kirkwood. I guess I'm a lifer in dance music. Been at this for 20 odd years now. In the last 12 years now, I've been doing a project under the name of Manpower. For whatever reasons, that caught the public or the clubbing world's imagination when it kicked off, and I've been quite fortunate enough to kind of tour around the world consistently for the last 10 years, playing clubs and festivals. Got a couple of record labels. I've just wrapped one up, actually. I've been releasing music on all of the labels I like, and kind of, I guess, like, how can I say it? Like, I've been able to keep a sustainable career going, doing the things that I enjoy for the last, actually for the last 20 years, but the last 12 years in the public eye. Yeah. But as of recent, I moved back to the UK back in the beginning of the pandemic, and I ended up working on a lot more community-led projects, social projects and things like that. As you get older, you start to think, well, maybe like pleasing myself, maybe there's a bit more to life than that. And especially after like a global pandemic where we really got to see like how much a pack of shit most of the DJs were, to be honest, and how self-serving a lot of the people in that world who used to talk about community work for so long kind of felt compelled to work in that kind of stuff. Yep. So that led on to opening up a venue a year ago, which we operate outside of a working men's social club, and it seems to have caught the imagination somehow. It's in the last 2 years we've had everybody from Caribou to Scream. We had Roman Flugel last Saturday, Gerd Janssen, Paranoid London Live, Ewan McVicker, Special Request, Optimo, Daniel Avery. There's a lot more than that, but like, and they're all coming playing this social club with a sort of Martin Audio sound system that we bought upstairs, and then downstairs you've got them sort of playing snooker and pool and bringing in their own ham and peas pudding sandwiches. It's like it's very unique and very strange, but we did that because we wanted to kind of approach putting on electronic music and sort of representing our end of the culture in a way that was sustainable, it was authentic and meant what we did, and went back to kind of very old clubbing principles. And I don't know, as of late, it seems to be that people are interested in that. So like, that's kind of where my heart is at the moment. I still tour, I still DJ, not as much as I used to, because it kills me now, to be totally honest. And
the travel mainly.
It really does. Like, and also, and this is like, I mean, I know I'm just meant to be introducing myself.
No, please keep going. It's
but
great.
This is kind of like a theme and everything.
Yeah.
What I realised was that with the places I was travelling to and the gigs that I was chasing and stuff like that, I didn't really like a lot of them. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Bear Chat is powered by Tenzing Natural Energy. As pure as your morning coffee, but without the jitters.
Whether it's the early morning grind, the afternoon slump, or the pre-workout that you need for that session, we've got you covered. It's 100% plant energy, no added sugar, and definitely no crash. Just clean, natural energy to keep you going.
And because we love you, anyone listening to this show gets 30% off. So quote BEAR30 to get your boost.
Like, we've known each other a lot longer than the last time we saw each other. I can remember when you were a wee slip of a boy type of thing.
Coming to see like the last waltz stuff.
Yeah, and he still had a beard. Sort of, you know, Jack, you'd be able to back us up on this. We used to do the weirdest, most underground, off the sort of grid type of parties, like in sort of abandoned spaces, and like we were playing music that nobody else was playing because it wasn't like what was in or what was popular. It was sort of, you know, just a bit more interesting. And then all of a sudden you find yourself sort of 10, 15 years later chasing, like, am I going to be the headliner on this, or am I going to be second headliner, and like what's the backstage like, and like, you know, complaining about the level of car you're getting and all that type of stuff. And I was like, this isn't very underground, like this isn't what I got in for. Why am I doing it now? So I guess after being sickened by a lot of that, that's what's made doing things in a different way a lot more appealing to me, because I'm just like, it all sounds noble and like I'm doing great things. It's not. I'm just trying to make it fun for myself again.
Well, the underground became the mainstream. Yeah. And I don't know when that happened, but it seemed like what we class as underground and cool and like very like elusive and like cloak and dagger became like, it's just everywhere.
There's a straight trajectory you can view of it. So as soon as money came into it, with EDM back in sort of like the tail end of the my wife hates when I calls it this, but the noughties, like, you know, the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Sort of all of a sudden, a lot of money came into this, and instead of it being a pastime where people did it and maybe they'll make a little bit of money, and then there was like a few people who managed to travel the world, but even them weren't becoming, like, with the exception of maybe Sasha and Digweed and like Carl Cox and people, nobody was becoming megastars. There were no brands involved. Well, as soon as EDM started saying like you can make serious amounts of money of that, then branding became an important thing, then management became an important thing, and then scale became an important thing, because it's like, well, look, if you can do a party for 300 people at this ticket price, imagine you did it for 30,000 people. Yeah. There'd be a lot more money in it. So it just became a product of a lucrative sort of capitalist pursuit. But over time, because of sort of social media and not having to do it in person, if you've never engaged in that and you're just like, oh, I like music that you can dance to, and you've never been involved in any sort of the cultural end of it by going to underground clubs or anything like that, and you're looking online at these videos on Instagram, like, you haven't got enough touchstones, you haven't got enough experience to go like, that thing is not the same as that thing. Yeah. The music sounds really similar, the dress the same way, the way they're dancing is really similar, but it doesn't make it the same thing. Yeah. And then over time, obviously, EDM became something that was getting called business techno, because
I've heard that term.
Yeah, but everybody's tastes lifted because of the because of Instagram. You know, like even your lads from sort of working class backgrounds like ourselves, like you know, people where I come from didn't dress particularly cool. If you know, you wouldn't see them on the front cover of a style magazine or something, like getting captured in the street. You know what I mean? We were just in our kind of raggy sort of working class uniforms, etc. But now Instagram means that everybody has the same standards for how they dress, sort of, you know, like what they think is good, and there's like a global consensus. So everybody's lifted their standards on that. So you cannot really tell the difference between anything else. Do you know what I mean? So in the past, we were talking about Panorama Bar or whatever else. like Berlin had a whole thing about sort of fetish wear and sort of that type of stuff, and that was like really edgy, out there thing to do. Well, now you see any sort of lass coming from the places that we're coming from at the age of 18 dressing in sort of out there bondage gear. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the things that make you go like, oh, that's a cultural thing and that's a commercial thing, that all of the commercial world have got access to what looks culturally adjacent to what makes it look like that. So business techno was basically, well, we'll just make it sound the same and look the same, but obviously we'll just do it for bigger things. And what they remove is the cultural element of it, the thing about finding the other weirdos who you found there. Do you know what I mean? Having a safe space, not because it sounds like a good brand value, but having a safe space in as much as, like, you know, you've grown up around people and you don't feel the same as them to be yourself. Whereas in this place where the doors are closed, there's no videos, you've never seen what it's like before, you can just be as wild or as out there or really sort of go to the ends of your personality. So the business techno thing, and now I don't even know what you call it, you just call it dance music, because now even this hard techno thing or whatever else, it's still really commercially motivated, and it's still really just about how many tickets it can sell and all that. And the way they've grown it is by removing the things that I guess people used to care about. Do you know what I mean?
Like what, for example?
Like, I would go to Nice instead of Shindig, which was a party that'd been running for about 10 years when I used to go there. And I knew that I could turn up at Nice on a Saturday night. I'd go there on my own, I'd walk in, and I know that there'd just be people in there, like a club, like if you're a member of a football club or a darts club or whatever else, you just turn up on your own and there was the other participants of it. And that, to me, is what the feeling of community is. Do you know what I mean? And if you didn't, you knew the fact that these people had discovered this place, you knew that it was off the map. It was like hidden treasure. So these people had to put this level of effort into finding this thing. So they might not see things exactly the same way as you, but they'll have had a way of seeing things that was similar to you, even if it was different, you know what I mean? A different view on the world. Whereas now, if that works with something from 100 people, even works like up to about, say, 700 or 800, but 1,000 plus, what you're actually looking for is like everybody agrees on everything, everybody likes the same stuff, and it becomes an element of conformity instead of like of how to be radically different to people. And I think that's the thing that's kind of been sucked out of it. I always used to, like, I've made this analogy in a few sort of different places, but I think the way, for me, the best way I can say that the whole thing is tipped around is if it was the 1980s or, you know, even the 90s, and you were, say, a punk, or you were a goth, or, you know, you were into something that was an alternative counterculture, you'd wear your hair in a way that would shock people, and you're dressing clothes that people would find quite alien to what the rest of society were wearing, and that was your form of self-expression, and you were saying, fuck you, I don't care if you like me, right? That's what you were saying. It's a really healthy thing to do, pushes culture, pushes individualism, it makes people think twice about stuff. It's a really useful thing for societies and cultures to grow as a whole. Now, if you're a punk or if you're a goth, I've got a 15-year-old daughter, and I see sort of, you know, how 15-year-olds are. If you were going to be a punk, you would put yourself on Instagram, and you wouldn't be saying, fuck you, I don't care if you like me. You'd be saying, like, how many likes can I get? Do you know what I mean? And it's turned this idea of self-expression as a form of rebellion and saying that you don't care as a self-expression becoming a form of, like, acceptance. And it's not just like, you don't just want to be a punking individual or whoever it is, you want to be the one that's most liked. So it's also made it a competitive formula instead. Do you know what I mean? Like I want more likes than the other person because of who I look, and sort of driving that type of thing. That's the opposite of what it used to be.
Complete opposite.
Absolute opposite.
Right,
So,
never even thought
so
about
ideals have been turned inside out for all of this, and it's the same with and going back, because there was a point to this, I promise, where you're talking about like the underground is now the mainstream. That's the exact same energy where it looks and feels like the underground, but what you're actually looking for to get out of it is the exact opposite of it, and that's what's turned it into the mainstream. So instead of being we're individual, it's more like a fascist rally where it's like we're all the same. Do you know what I mean? We all wear the same clothes. We're all listening to the same music.
I never thought of it like that at all. I've never thought of it that way. Actually, when you were talking there, it was taking us back to like the times where I felt a little bit out of place when I started DJing. None of my mates really knew anything about music, so I kind of got in with the Jaunt crew. So I knew if I went to Cosmic for Jaunt, I didn't even have to text anyone. I knew I'd go down, I'd see Rankin, I'd see all the other guys, right? There'd be loads of people who I saw last time, I'd be like, oh, I haven't spoke to you since last month.
Yeah, exactly.
And you feel part of this weird family that you're all like, not like lost like toys on an island, but you feel like you could just go there. You don't have to plan it. And you're in this, again, a small venue. Intimacy is what was really important. Community, family. And even going back to the afters and all that sort of stuff. It was great fun. But you're part of this little crew. And even if it's for a moment in time, for that one night or 2 nights, whatever it went on for, that was a special moment. But now, you're right. These sort of smaller venues and smaller parties don't really exist anymore. And you've got them in these, not mention any names, but 15,000 capacity venues. And
there's only 3 of them. You don't have to mention names.
I've said it a couple of times.
I wonder if he means me. Yeah, I think you get it.
But anyway, we've talked about with some artists we've had on where they go, how do you go from, and again, I'm digressing a little bit, but it's still kind of the same topic. How do you go from an artist who wants to DJ and you do the bedroom stuff, you've got to do a huge jump to go from that to then getting a warm-up slot on a 15,000 capacity venue party. Then also you've got the punters who are going in. Instead of like paying £5 to get in the Cosmic or 10 quid or whatever it was, or Legends or whatever venue it was, like you say in Newcastle, you're paying 50, 60, 100 quid for a ticket for a day party from like 12 till 10. And it's like, that's a lot of money. So, it's just, the whole thing's messy, which is what I wanted to speak to you about today, because you've been very vocal on your socials about this stuff. Even to the point where you're saying you've got the one show wants to speak to you about what you're doing in King Street Social, and the King Street Social stuff I think is fucking amazing.
I like it because
class.
Because I'm obviously the same age, and for me as somebody who got deeply into clubland and clubbing, particularly across the UK from 1998, 1999 onwards. So Shindig, Shindig Outdoor. And my mates from the northeast. I met a group of lads up from Durham, Spennymoor, Keller.
That's my
town. But the one thing that me, my missus, and our group of friends from Manchester, we'd commute from Manchester up to Durham, and we'd go to the Manor Barn. We see Louis Vega, Masters at Work, Sandy Rivera for the house stuff. And down to Birmingham, Custard Factory, London Turnmills, all these places.
Turnmills,
Turnmills was my favourite club. But
I saw Chemical Brothers DJ set. And it was like, again, I have a 15-year-old daughter, so there's going to be like a kind of a sanitized version of events, and sort of like kind of probably making it worse by even describing it.
Give us that shovel back, Geoff.
But basically, we went down to go to Turnmills to see the Chemical Brothers, and it was a bunch of Geordie lads, and we got there, and on the Friday night we're like, maybe we'll try this new club Fabric. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? And if we'd bought a packed lunch, should I say, then we'd eaten all of our sandwiches on the first night before the actual place that we were supposed to go to, with it, stayed up the entire night, and then just kind of floated into Turnmills, and like, sort of, how did that just happen? And then it was one of those places where the lower you got into the building, the sketchier it got. To the bottom, there's like halls of mirrors and all sorts of stuff.
The bar area had that big like head.
Exactly.
Over the
what
top
capacity was Turnmills? Was it a big place?
Honestly, no. I was not in a position to be able to judge it. It's like 10 million, if you ask me.
Tall Paul was
big one.
His brother did the lights in there, and he was involved in the club as well. But my favourite club in the UK, by far, sound system wise, lighting wise, and for that reason, you'd go downstairs, it was just dark, and you'd come out at 6 a.m, like Apocalypse Now or World War Z or something. Like you said, you'd have like denim jeans on with a chain hanging off, leather wristband, sweating,
the leather wristband,
chatting, and then you'd just be like, and again, nobody had phones.
Exactly.
We used to take out, and I've seen one of your posts recently.
Yeah, we just did that on Saturday.
And I love that idea. We'll talk about it in a second. But for me, the reason why I'm touching over that, as I'm listening to you, I'm getting all these memories. And when I was younger in my local town, me and my mates, we used to go out to the local nightclub, and we'd just be drinking alcohol and boozing. And I'd end up fighting, getting into trouble or whatever. And when I went into clubland with my missus, and obviously you go out and you get on the Garys and all the rest of it. And I found when I commuted up and down the country, I've got friends in Leeds that I still speak to this day. In Newcastle, some of my best friends, from Durham in particular. And these groups of lads and girls that we would meet. And every time we went on holiday to Ibiza, in 2001, you would bump into these groups of people. And someone would hear your accent, they go, "Oh, Manchester." And straight away they go, "Sankies." That was the reference. And Newcastle would be Shindig.
It would be a change around from going to your City or United.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They'd be like, you sat in, do you know what I mean? It'd be like it was completely recoding of what mattered to you. So this is the thing that I think, it's important to kind of get across, and it's useful speaking to two people from northern sort of, similar backgrounds to my own, is that the function of electronic music or these events or whatever else has been turned into mass entertainment with a superstar brand at the top and the DJ as the brand. Now, it's all fine and well. I'm not saying to get rid of it or whatever else, but what's been removed was something that performed a vital function for me. I'm a knacker from Wallsend, which is a pretty bad place in the northeast, and the people I grew up with were all, like everybody is from those type of towns, and including myself. And getting into nightclubs and changing and going to having this social experience and all of the things that came with it, etc., changed the course of my life. And the way it did that was it gave me a no judgment space to kind of grow as a person. If you're from a working class background, especially post-industrial kind of places where people used to work in big factories, or shipyards or coal mines, etc. Everybody, for necessity, for hundreds of years, has acted like each other, because if you don't act like each other, you can have a pit collapse, or somebody can fall off, the top of a scaffold, or do you know what I mean? Like, it's dangerous to be different. So we've all been taught for hundreds and hundreds of years that it's dangerous to be different. But now they've all closed, it's not, and it's healthy. So a lot of us couldn't act any different at school or whatever else. You'd either mask or you'd behave the same way as all the people around you, because that's what it was supposed to be. Then you get to a club and you're like, I can do what I want, and I can talk about this Japanese cartoon that nobody's seen in the smoking area, or do you know what I mean? or the TV shows I remember that nobody likes anymore. And then it's like, actually, I've read this book, and it's a bit. Then you'd find yourself just growing as a person because you were out of that box that you were being kept in. Do you know what I mean? You'd like smash the walls of it. So like any plant, your roots were going further or else. And that's how I developed as a person. Yeah. And nightclubbing and all of the things that went around it changed my life. A DJ didn't change my life, no matter what Indeep says. There's never been sort of like a single musical moment where that's happened.
Yeah.
The experience of being in a club and everything that went around the club, the DJ was the thing. Sort of the DJ was as important as the barman, as important as the door staff, as important as all. And actually, that's something that somewhere like Panorama Bar has, right? Like, they keep everybody on the same level in the hierarchy in their own organisation. Lots of places do you know what I mean? And I think this elevation of the DJ's product to bring so many thousand people, it's just removed that type of thing. People are turning up there instead in a and again, it's fine, but it's no different to going to take that reunion concert or a big rock band or anything else. They turn up in the groups that they made beforehand. They all come together, hang about together like they would at a festival, and leave together. There's no interaction, there's no growth, there's no sense of togetherness, because how could there be with so many people in there? Whereas this, instead, what I'd like to preserve, or what I'd like to not even preserve, provide for my daughter's generation when they come through, or the younger people who are there now, is spaces where it's like, actually, you can go in there, you can be whatever you want. People are going to be different to you. You're going to grow from meeting people who are different to you. They're going to grow from meeting you, and just expand yourself as a person and make it as like a really worthwhile sort of, not social experiment, but social experience. You know what I mean? Become socialized for that. And for young people, especially in a time, and apparently, allegedly, the reason why less young people are going out or getting into things as deeply is because of the fear of being photographed, or the ever-presence of video footage everywhere,
everything's recorded from the...
They've got drones now flying around.
Exactly. So getting in a space where you can do whatever you want. This no phones policy has become a bit of a trendy thing, but you don't want to go in a place where they forbid phones. You want to go for a place where people are enjoying themselves so much they don't reach for their phone.
That's
you know what I mean?
So it's a nice idea, but the energy around putting your phone, it's like you're forced, it's a rule. So people have already got the backs up without subconsciously.
Yeah.
Because
but again, what it does is, and again, sorry, just to
go.
talk on that point, because I seen it. I was clubbing at a time when the first camera got put on a phone, and then I was out clubbing in Pasha, these places, Space, when the cameras got better and better and better. And then I found as an individual that I was videoing more myself.
Yeah, of course.
Just the video. Of course, this wasn't even to put on social media, just videoing the moment. And then I was like, what am I doing? And I'd be behind the back of the light stage in Pasha, and I'd be there videoing DJs watching, and then I'd be like, what am I doing? And the moment I went on the dance floor and was dancing and was present, and that moment when you look at another stranger, the drop kicks in. That's the connection I'm on about.
I've just got goosebumps.
Now at the minute, when I was at Music On very recently, still dipping my toe in the water as an old, living clean, sober person. I was there with my brother, and it was a nice experience, but I watched when there was a really big drop. Everybody just had the phones over the booth, and it's not a critique. If that's what you want to do, fine. But from Clubland, from where I was from back in the day, that moment of looking at a stranger and you see them and you're like that, and you just give a nod of acknowledgement. There is a connection in that moment with the actual drop in music itself. So that is definitely 100% changing. But not only is it the tech in the phone,
it's
and
changed.
you having it in your phone, but that no phone policy thing has started to divide people as well, which is, I really like your post, Geoff, that was put up where we're not a no phone policy place, but we wanted, and when I seen the pictures, I thought they were pictures from back in the day, but they're just pictures taken off the cameras.
Well, no, the first ones we posted, those were pictures from 2003.
Were they? I thought they were.
Because they were full of people with black eyes.
Black eyes. That's what
and the pig and whistle, that one. So,
that was me in the 90s.
Which was fine because I used to drink in there, so I don't feel that was exploited.
Right.
But that was the first pub I ever got into in town. I was 15 at the time. And,
really?
I can remember getting really drunk and giving somebody who I thought was homeless my denim jacket, and then about half an hour later he was in ordering a pint next to us, and I was just like, what the hell has happened here? Like, but the camera thing, like, we're really lucky that we're not a no phone policy. Just nobody really gets their phone out, or if they do, they're very quick, or like, do you know what I mean? Like, and they don't let it get in the way of their enjoyment. And I think what we've managed to do, and again, like, you talk about these things as if they're forever and you've done something amazing. It might not even be there in a couple of months, who knows, do you know what I mean? But at the moment, what we're really looking at is because we've communicated with the people who come, and we haven't tried to like, hey, customers, it's like, hey, this is our party, we're all coming to it, what's the way to do it? Like, a consensus of behaviours kind of developed. So people just realise it's not the done thing. And like, for instance, when we had Ewan McVicker play, we had an uptake in like a lot of younger than we'd normally seen. I mean, we do get a lot of young people, but these were like kind of 19, 20-year-olds who'd probably never been out of that type of thing. Came from the start, stood down the front, lots of pretty young girls type of thing, and they were straight standing on their phones. But all you saw was regulars tap up and go like, honestly, you'll have more fun without. And they're like, really? Like, really? And then by the end of it, these people, all the phones were in the pocket and they were having the time of their lives, which was just like amazing. And this is the thing, like, we have to be really, really careful, or I feel I have to be really, really careful not to turn what I'm saying into a nostalgia thing, because it's not that it was better in the day. Like, like, those bits were better and I enjoyed them more, but things weren't uniformly better. It's not that music was better or this was better. And also, like, as I say, you and I are a little bit older than Jackie, but like, you're no spring chicken even, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It should still be youth culture, and we shouldn't be the ones saying how people should engage with it. But what I think we have got a duty to say is like, have you considered trying this, because I think you'll enjoy it more with whatever you're doing, not like you have to do things the way we've done it, listen to things we've done and act the same way. No, that's pointless. It's stupid. You're like, could you imagine listening to a bloke in your 40s and your 20s saying, no, this music's, I mean, there was a few people whose taste I would trust, but like, I'm saying like, no, you're clubbing wrong. I'd be like, piss off, Grandad. Do you know what I mean?
But it's human nature. If someone tells you to do something, you go against the grain. You're like, I'll do it even less.
But every generation is supposed to reject what happened before it. And it'd be really disappointing if they didn't.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it would be really awful if they didn't.
Yeah.
Because again, society and culture wouldn't grow. But I think that's the different thing. If you look at dance music as being our culture and something that goes on, then there's a line of sort of tradition and ideals, and that gets updated by every generation, but at least they've got a thread to follow on to. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
At least they keep on that thread, and then they evolve it in their own way. And the way that we are even talking about how we like got into dance music in sort of like around about the millennium, if you went back 10 years before, and it would be very different. Some of the ideals have remained constant through it. Other things have changed in the way that's essential for it. The problem now is, and this is something that sort of people seem to be agreeing with me on, is there's this break. There's been like that thread of experience and sort of dialogue and evolution has been snapped in two since the pandemic. And I've said this recently on an interview, like I put a clip up of a documentary I'm in where I've been talking about it. A few people have sort of said that they see this as the same way, but basically we're talking about being able to pass on this knowledge to people. In the pandemic, people were jammed at home, and your next generation of clubbers from, say, the age of 16 to 18 who would have just first been going out, instead of, I mean, the damage was already starting to happen, but rapidly, more quickly, instead of turning up at a club, meeting the likes of us, or people, you know, who are already participants and getting a feel for it, is their entire idea of clubbing came from what they were seeing on video. And instead of having that thing, you know, you're talking about the goosebumps of before you go into the turnmills, like whatever venues they're going to, they've watched a drone shot video from every angle, synced with music, with pictures of the DJ doing a drop and everybody going wild. So they're walking in with a weird sense of expectation. But those expectations have been set by big businesses and corporations and festival operators, etc., because they've got the resources to dominate that digital space, that video space. So they've come in, and instead of learning our values or the values that were passed on to us or the values that we've passed on to the generation after us, etc., they've learned the values of X corporation that operates in the digital sphere. Do you know what I mean? So like they're getting taught like, nothing's good unless there's 10,000 people there. Like music isn't good unless you're jumping up and down on the spot at a massive drop. Do you know what I mean? Like they're not engaging with really what dance music culture, that all of the other facets of dance music culture and what was it about. And that's meant that like you have clubs full of young people, which all people complain about, and you have clubs of older people that young people think they would never dare go to. There's no sort of like passing of the baton, if you get what I mean. There's no connection. And the fact is that, yeah, it's great having all of the experience that the older participants can bring to this thing, and the context and the perspective and the musical knowledge and the cultural knowledge, but it's nothing without the energy of young people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just turns into I don't know, it just turns into a remember when club without that energy of like, you know, new stuff coming through, young people coming through. So things do need to be done to repair that connection. And I guess that's kind of the approach that we're going for, is just trying to like, and it's telling that we did it outside of Newcastle city centre. Instead, we've done it at a town where nothing was happening. Because,
I noticed that, yeah.
Well, it just meant that we didn't have to compete or do anything else. We could make it from zero and just say like, well, this is our version of things. There's nothing else to compare it to. So you kind of have to go with it if that's what you want to do.
The money, yeah, the issue is, I mean, it's probably obvious, quite obvious, but because the capacity of these other parties are so big, it's sucking dry these either grassroots artists who are going to like I'm using Cosmic as an example because it's that club.
But it's closed as well, so we can use that.
Has it actually?
It has.
When?
Last year. I got a fright as well because I used to manage it.
Fuck, I know. I remember.
Yeah. And then there was like, I saw like about a month after it closed, and I was like, oh Christ, I forgot about that one.
Yeah, I cut my teeth there. I was going to John selling tickets for Blackhall and Buckless and them. And then we did our first party there. We brought RG to Newcastle for the first time.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was fucking really good. And that's really sad. Again, I'm completely out of this, Geoff. So at the moment, if you ask me what's hot, what's not, what clubs are playing, I have no idea. But it's probably all changed based on this conversation. You know, it's Cosmic's gone. That was one of the clubs I thought would be there forever.
But it was Newcastle's oldest club at the time. It started off as the Stage Door, and it was
the Stage Door. Yeah,
it had been open since about 1961, I think, and like all of the. It used to be like one of those kind of Vegas-y looking like dinner suit and ball gown sort of joints, and then it was like jazz and R&B and all that type of thing. When I first started DJing, that was just a few years before it was Cosmic, and it was the guys who had done a club called the Playrooms that had fallen through, so they took it to Cosmic. And like Cosmic, Stage Door, the only time I've been in Stage Door prior to that was when I was sort of 16 and went to a doctors and nurses night on a Thursday because medical professionals got in for cheap, and we just snuck in. And I think
that's awesome.
Me mate necked on with some sort of 20-something-year-old nurse, and then one of her told her she was 15, and she was like, "No!" I remember, but it was that kind of trashy type of place. So when we went in, it was still like that. So it was super like an 80s place. It had like brass bars going around the dance floor and like this weird walkway up the top of it, and upstairs had like a stripper pool in it and all that type of thing. And just putting like sort of, so you remember Christian who had sort of jukebox?
Yes.
Skev and them, and then a few other people. There was about 3 or 4 just mad nights there, but it was like, because it was so off the map, it was like where everybody could like start putting on electro clash nights or like, you know, like weird trash nights or strange house nights and all that. So then it got so successful that they invested in it and turned it into Cosmic.
I think Cosmic had a refresh. I can't remember what year it was, but then it all got done out and we're like, this is fucking wicked. It's underground. It's out the way. It's down like Chinatown, right? So out a little bit out, like off the beaten path. But so going back to what I was saying, you've got, there's a perfect example. That wasn't planned. Like Cosmic is the, what is it, 600-700 capacity, maybe more?
Yeah.
So all those sort of venues are struggling or closing because these 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 capacity events are just sucking up all the business. And again, like you said, there's nothing wrong. If the people want to do that, that's fine. But it also has a knock-on effect on the food chain of this whole thing.
It's not even just a case of them sucking up the business. So, when I talk about how this people are now moving instead of community values that have been passed on generationally, I guess, as weird as that sounds.
Yeah.
They're landing in on brand values instead. Well, the biggest problem with that is that if you've sat at home and you've just been taught that DJ such and such massive name is the one that you should care about because you've seen their videos, and when you look at their videos, there's sort of pyrotechnics going off and blah 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 versus, and so you go like, they're a big deal, they're who I'm supposed to see, versus DJ whoever who's got like 10 viewers and their pot plants on their desk playing off a few records. You're like, well, that's something worth going to, that's not. So all of the power is now in the hands of big names. So people won't go to see people unless they're superstars and in a giant environment, because that's what they've been told is good. So therefore, how do small clubs attract business or attract customers to come to their space when it's sort of like, what, I'll go there, I've never heard of any of those people. What's the point of going there? Or I can spend more money on going to see this person and be in a place with 10,000 people, which is obviously better. Well, it's like the conversation needs to be like, hanging around with 10,000 people can be fun. It's often a drag. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or it's a different type of fun. And so what you need to do is sort of foreground, like you might not have heard of the DJs, but the experience of this club, this venue is why you go there. So the majority of people who come to our stuff, we play around with the bookings. Obviously, people like Caribou, loads of people have heard of. But like, like we've got Wallace and Galagos playing.
We saw that
with
post,
next month.
Wicked.
Now, they're amazing DJs, but they're certainly not up like on your bicep level or anything like that. But people who haven't heard of them will come because they're like, oh, it's a party at King Street. I like going to King Street.
Exactly.
And that's what saves venues. People buying into the venue rather than the superstar brand, i.e. the DJ being the thing that pulls them there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
used to go, and I would use this 3 times now, but I used to go to Jaunt. I didn't go because WAF was playing. I didn't go because...
On that, when you were talking about it, I was going to say, it was very telling when you were talking about your crew. You didn't once mention when I went to see such and such DJ, you went when I go to that club.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, and I think that's if we want to save clubs, and don't get me wrong, there's we don't have to save clubs, just because I think it's an important function of sort of, or just because it was an important function for me to break my conditioning or my social programming or generational trauma or whatever you want to call it, right? It doesn't mean that everybody have to do it, but I kind of want to. So these are the methods that I suggest if anybody agrees with me on it. But it's like, if clubbing dies, it's a 40-year-old in its current form, well, maybe 50-year-old sort of phenomenon. Maybe it's over, maybe it goes away, but while I can still kind of do stuff that kind of keeps it going, I want to try and do it. Do you know what I mean?
The thing is, they're calling it clubbing now, these big things, but they're not clubbing. It's a different thing. It's not even the same. I don't think you can even use the same term.
No.
It's not clubbing. You're not in a lot of them aren't even in a club.
Yeah.
You can't get that many. I mean, there's a couple, not mentioning any names again, but you know what I mean? They're not clubs. They're either outdoor venues or they're doing it's essentially a small festival.
No, it's exactly.
And the DJ is a rock star. That's the new Led Zeppelin, is like the DJ.
Well, this is why it came about, and this is the whole reason why EDM got so heavily invested in, was that there was a lot of money in the industry of rock and roll, do you know what I mean, and like live events, etc. But by the time you've got guitar techs, drum techs, separate sound engineer for every band, 5 members on each band, plus the touring, plus the bus, plus this, plus that, etc. All of them with their own management structures, with their own teams, etc. That money goes through a lot of hands. So if you've got this one pot of, say, 2 million quid, and it goes through, I'm not very good at maths, but say it goes through, you might have to divide it by 200 people. Whereas if you do it with one DJ, one manager, one brand, that goes through the hands of 3 people instead. So they're like, this is better business for us. We can do a rock band. We don't even have to bring in instruments. We can fucking use equipment that's already there. Obviously, there's the light shows and pyrotechnics and whatever else, but it really is, it's capitalism at its purest form, which is like, let's make the maximum amount of money go into the hands of the minimum amount of people. And that's the whole attraction of sort of, and that's why everybody invested in it so heavily and sort of pushed it that way.
Yeah.
And that's what we're looking at now, that like a corporation, a band of shareholders who haven't got anything in there and have invested in something because they want to turn £1 into £2, really don't give a shit about whether or not it's changing your life unless you're paying for it to change your life.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's in the hands of people who don't care about it.
Yeah.
So it's obviously going to go in that direction. Music's in the hands of people who don't care about it. Look at Spotify. Do you know what I mean? Like, Spotify is literally killing the value of music to people.
Killed past tense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but the fact is that we're all proponents of it. It's quite interesting actually, because you guys talk about the efforts of social media and sort of like how that can have a negative impact on people, and I've suffered that from that myself.
Yeah.
And I was talking about it the other day, and I was meeting with a very nice guy. We're working together doing, he's a music supervisor, and I'm going to do a few albums for a big, like a catalogue, if you get what I mean. So like, anyway, like it's like a fixed job, if you get what I mean. Cool. And he was quite proud of himself. He's like, well, I'm not on social media anymore. And I was like, well, it's very easy to not be on social media if you don't need to be on social media. But I was like, but I bet you're on fucking Spotify, aren't you? He was like, well, yeah, I have to be on Spotify. I was like, well, there you fucking go. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like all of these things, we are so reliant on sort of corporations and sort of big business or whatever else, just to amplify our messages or to get things across there, that it's sort of like everything has changed from that point of view. So again, my point is that just do stuff where you can look people in the eyes on a level where you can actually like enjoy it and it can become meaningful. Don't have to worry about becoming the biggest or the most important thing in the world, because that ends up feeling quite hollow. But if you do something on a level where it's like, fuck me, there was 200 were there and it was amazing. Yeah. That's where you should be putting your energy in. It's the only form of rebellion you can really do.
It's kind of like what we're talking about here and what you were saying before as well, Geoff. I get it. It's nice to be nostalgic and it's nice to look back. Things change and that's a good thing. Yeah, but when things are changing, where if you look at Clubland, but society at large, and a book that we passed on yesterday to Alistair is a great book written by Johan Hari, Lost Connections, and it's about the West as a whole in terms of this technological shift that we're having as well. But when you look at Clubland in particular, and what you was giving an example to there is, I've been out in recent years and people are at a venue now to be at the venue, so the brand. Mm-hmm. They don't even know who's playing. Mm-hmm. And even if they catch the DJ's name on a poster, they'll say, is such and such a body playing? Yeah. And the DJ would have been playing for 2 or 3 hours. Yeah. Again, this is not judgmental. This is just being aware of the environment and what it is. And that connection to why are you there? Like you said, we used to go for the club, we'd go for the DJ, we'd go for the group of mates or whatever. And that's kind of, being stripped away. And the big corporations and what you're giving an example to there in Ibiza recently, there's more of a brand that's making more of a footprint on the island, to a point where a club that used to be available to go to and you could just go in and not really pay much underground is now gone. And then them guys were just like a little ant. And this entity that was a big entity didn't need to do that. Didn't need to do that. And it's almost like kind of just like bullying tactics. And like you said, capitalism. And for me, it's not a good energy about it. At the end of the day, everybody should be free to still create a space and express however they want to express. And like you said, you don't tell anybody how or where to go. Just let everybody kind of do what they need to do. There's enough out there for everybody. But yeah, it's losing, for me, in the time of this advancement with not just tech, but then brand imagery, and then also the need that you feel that you have to be dragged by this. We've had many artists on here that have said all of a sudden, I had to tell my team that we need to take a strip back. All I'm doing at the minute is talking about social media, and it's not why I'm doing this. We had another artist who played at a festival, and he just went, I'm not doing this.
You know what?
I'm not enjoying it.
I actually want to just, for the record, say I have maybe been a bit hypocritical here, because the only reason that I'm saying the only reason, maybe the only reason, but the reason that I got that trajectory was because Steve Lawler played my track at Shindig in Newcastle, and someone got a video. I think it was Lydia at the time, got a video, sent it to me, and because of social media, he knew who I was because I messaged him and said, I've got you playing my track. And then from then it was like Fisher played my track, and I was posting these videos, and that's how I went from one level to another level to another level to get gigs. So for me to sit here and go, I agree with everything you're saying. Yeah. And I think there's valid points. It's not even valid points, they're facts, what you're saying. But at the same time, I don't think I would have had illustrious career if I didn't have that boost from social media. So there's like a proper paradox. Everything's a paradox. Yeah.
But there's not actually. I'll dispute that. I think what you're both saying completely chimes with each other, because you've got to look at the date in the year when you had that trajectory, and then you have to look at what things are today, and the way that they've squeezed the nut on this ongoing. I'm exactly the same. Like I found a network and a community of people who were into the same type of music that were into what I was, via Facebook. It was Facebook groups were sharing my unreleased music, etc. And then a load of hype built around it, and I was anonymous. So like there was a whole guessing game that developed, and all of that gave enough energy that magazines started paying attention, and all of these type of things sort of drove from that. And that was great. But what there was an element of curatorship, there was an element of involvement, there was an element of audience, and there was an element of third party things, whether it be like for you it was Steve Lawler was the third party. For me it would be like DJ Mag and Mix Mag talking about it, or Test Pressing blog or things like that. So that was then. Now what has been driven through social media is individual like if you're a social media company, you're like, well, I don't want somebody to post on Instagram posting about another website or a magazine. I want people posting on Instagram and it just being Instagram. So everybody's been turned into their own individual broadcast channel now. So now everybody's competing against each other, and the only like level to compete across is because there's no curation, there's no editorial, there's no magazine talking about you in their voice and offering a critique of it. There's literally just a conversation going, look at me, I'm the fucking best, right? Like look at me. No, and that's literally what it's become now. So everybody is just trying to fight on top of each other.
Got you.
And the content of what they're saying isn't enough, because that means they can't cut through. So instead they come back with a thing of like, look at me, I've got my arse out in Fenix window. Will you look at me now? Do you know what I mean? Or look at me, I'm doing a stupid fucking dance. Or look at me, I'm going to say something that's absolute horrible rage bait, just whatever to make you look at me, engage with me, and click on me. Do you know what I mean? So what we've lost, and that's why, like, music magazines are really struggling. Mix Mag's not even a print magazine anymore. I know that was accelerated by the pandemic, but it's still a product of like the voices, the curation, I hate to say it because you never want to fall on the side of gatekeeping, but I've kind of found myself in a position where I do. The benevolent gatekeepers, the people who are like, look, I've spent my life in this and these are my opinions based on this whole type of thing, they're all being pulled out of it in favour of like whoever's got the biggest, whoever's got the highest followers. And instead you end up with like fucking morons like Jordan Belmar and people like that, or even worse, the two misogynist sort of sex traffickers whose names I'm not even going to say, just in case. Do you know what I mean? Having a voice just by virtue of having a massive platform. And all of a sudden, everything they utter is fucking gold.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's where social media's kind of veered off, because they're like, how can we twist this and twist this and twist this? And it's the same energy of how can we bring all of it into one place that we own, rather than it being out in an ecosystem instead.
And if you don't come here, you're not good enough.
Yeah.
If you don't come here, you're not cool.
Enough. That's
And
it's been seen.
We had this very conversation on the train going home last night, and the names that you said you wouldn't mention was the names that we was talking about.
Yeah.
And it's this thing of telling somebody else how they should be, and if they're not being it, they're not good enough.
Yeah, exactly.
And I seen one of your posts recently, Geoff, as well, which I found interesting, and I thought it's right. And from a DJ's perspective, I've got friends who are either ex-DJs or currently DJs, and you see the obligatory kind of like summer roster post go up from a big DJ at a club in Ibiza, facing another club in Playa d'Embossa, which we won't name, but they whack the roster up and you're like, wow. And I imagine as a DJ and you're trying to make your career and you see somebody put their roster up like that, you're like, wow, how am I going to compete with that? And these guys are getting like 6-figure sums for one set. And that's, again, it's the branding and the it's changing as a whole on so many levels. The disconnection of community for me is the big one, and that's why I really love what you're doing, because fundamentally, as human beings, that's what we're about. And the pandemic and lockdown, look at the massive disconnect that happened there. Stay in your home, don't go out, don't even see your family members. So everything that we're talking about here all has its own element to add into this change and shift, with big brands. And it all, like you said, when it falls down to we're all about the pound coin, or we're all about making the money. Like I said, the example I gave about the small club in Ibiza, it was just brutal, that. There's no need. They don't have to do that.
Yeah, I'm seeing that from the other end at the moment. I'll not go into too much detail on that one, because Ibiza is political, to say the least. But we're in talks with 2 or 3 different places, and we're pretty far down the line of trying to do something in Ibiza this summer. Purely, experiment undermines what we're doing, because we feel it would do well. But purely, my attitude has always been, when something goes so far in one direction, it does automatically create a space for something else to do well, just as being the clear alternative. So we're working with places to find, all of the boxes that we need to tick would be super affordable on doors, super affordable on drinks, and a place that gives us enough time for real DJs to play for a longer set length, and tell a journey and put people in of who we think are of value, and just kind of go back to like basically bringing what I think a club is to Ibiza.
Yeah.
And it's a great thing in principle, and there's a couple of venues that talk to us. The biggest problem I've got is some venues are really keen, but they're far too big for what we want to do. But there's no small venues left, and there's no licenses for anybody being able to do what you would call like an off location either.
Yeah.
Underground, everybody, it's like underground would have been perfect, but do you know what I mean? So it's kind of trying to. There's still some decent options in play, and like that looks good. I don't think I'm going to be able to touch, like, say if we have 7, I think the best I'm going to get is probably going to be 5 out of 7. But they're not deal breakers because the value of doing it, like the good things it does, kind of works around from that type of thing. And it's one of those things I was saying to somebody on the train who I bumped into, and I was like, it's 80% there. And I know if I put me will to it, I could make it 100%. But I'm like, is it going to take over my life to kind of do that thing? But I just think it feels right to do something like along the lines of that. To go back on something, what you were saying about, the not good enough thing. And like looking at all that type of thing, how like social media drives you to sort of compare yourself to somebody saying, this is my schedule for the summer. And you're thinking, well, I do a bunch of mentorship. And what I always tell people to do is that you need to redefine what your version of success is. And if your version of success is being, DJ AAA, who is the biggest in the world and plays that music to those people, etc., then you definitely should follow that. But for most people, that's not exactly what you're looking for. So you have to find out what the things are that matter are to you. And I think everybody ends up in this position where they do imitate what they see online because they think, well, that's all there is. Yeah. And then after a while, you kind of figure out that that's not the case. And the one thing I would say is whoever DJ fucking AAA is, I guarantee you, no matter what level you're operating at, there will be elements of your life that they envy just as much as you envy what they've got. Yeah. Like for me, I can think of like a lot of megastar DJs who play these massive venues, and they always come to me and they're like, oh, I wish I could play, and there's a lot of obvious ones, such and such where you play, or I wish I could do a party like that, but I'm just not able to do it and whatever else. And I used to find myself when I was on this mad treadmill of trying to just get bigger and bigger and bigger, which was nuts. I don't even know how that got into me thinking, but it's insidious. It just gets inside you. I used to think like, why are they getting this and why am I not getting that? And then I realized over time, it's like they're thinking exactly the same thing. About
everyone's standing on top of each other.
It's a very simple aphorism, but the grass is always greener for every single person. And as soon as you work that out and go like, well, do I care about that more than I care about that? If I do, I'll pursue it. If not, then I've got what I want. Do you know what I mean? And like I have hit my own level of success, and it's been great for me because in recent years I have hit sort of the level of success that I want. I used to feel like I was failing if I wasn't DJing sort of like, let's say 6 out of 8 weekends in a month. That felt like failure. To me now, that feels like fucking hell. I was like, that would be awful. Yeah. Because also to fill that, I'd be taking gigs for the sake of like looking good on those schedules. So that match everything else. And they're just like, it's like, no, I'd rather be playing places where people really get what I'm into.
Now you're watering the grass that you're already stood on.
Exactly that. And also being able to do it. So like, I'm away to Dublin on Friday. I'm playing with these guys who I've played for once before and I've met 3 times at other parties, and I consider them friends.
Brilliant.
They're cool as fuck.
Wicked.
My wife's coming. I know I can play. I know. I know what audience they're going to bring with them. I know that they'll get the kind of music that I'm into. So that's absolutely perfect. You know what I mean? And then other things are just sort of classic venues or places that I've done before. But for instance, I'm not playing, I think I'm playing like 3 times between March and April. But that's a choice. It gives us a bit of, I've got a bit of surgery I need to get, so I'm going to get that. I operate sort of a venue, and we've got like quite a few sort of other social projects going on, so I can get my head down for that. And then after that, like the gigs that I've got in for the summer, I cannot wait to do. But instead of it being a worry anymore, like that's turned into my version of what success is. Do you know what I mean? I get to talk about, think about, and do the things that I enjoy. And if I still had that way of thinking, like you're never going to be satisfied with anything you got. And like even if I'd achieved it, it's like that dog chasing the car. It's like what they're going to do when they get it. Do you know what I mean? Like
it's the mountain analogy you see, trying to get to the top of that mountain and trying to summit, but there isn't a summit. You just keep going and going, and you never get to that top.
Yeah, no, you never exactly that.
That's the post I'm on about that. Seen Geoff, January and February manpower dates. But I read it, it made me chuckle. Brilliant.
Well, we'll wrap it up. I know you've got to get away for a radio show, so we'll not keep you longer. But we do a feature on the show which is called Pass the Book.
Brilliant.
And the previous guest gives the next guest a book, not knowing who that is.
Uh-huh.
So the previous guest was a friend of ours called Alistair. Very, he's an incredible human being. He's had a very fruitful past. Went from owning a nightclub in Tenerife, going down a very dark path, dealing drugs, mad story, went into rehab. Now owns or is founder of a hypnotherapy and meditation app and helps people that way.
Amazing.
It's done very well. We had him on, it was last week's episode, wasn't it? And he gave this book, Atomic Habits by James Clear. Have you read it or not?
No, I've never even heard of it.
Oh, fantastic. I thought Jeff's definitely read that.
Do you know what it is? Like, I don't read much of this sort of in the self-help realm, or like not self-help, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. No, it is self-help.
But I always want to.
Right.
And I've just like, so I took an English literature degree at the age of 33. I managed to do a year of it, and then I got my first tour in Mexico and the States, and I was like, I'll do my exams while I'm away touring.
Yeah, right. Fuck off.
But because of that, because I had to read like 6 books a week, I was an avid reader, and now I really struggle to pick up a book. But I've started getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning and just giving myself 2 hours reading time, and I've bashed out 3 books, and I finished the other one yesterday morning. So this timing of this couldn't be any better. And next time I see you, I might have a whole bunch of Atomic Habits as well.
There you go. So Alistair said, we were talking in depth about how the reason he became the person he is today, which is, I don't even understand how he was that person he was before, but he completely changed his identity, and he changed his identity through habits that he did daily. And this isn't like huge things that are going to take you an hour a day, just little things that he changes, tweaked over time. So that's why he give you that book. But before we wrap up, Geoff, is there anything you want to talk about? By the way, obviously, again, King Street Social, I think is fantastic. I'm actually going to have to go to one. 100%. But is there anything else? Anyway, you want to plug anything that's going on at the moment? Any parties coming up? Like, let's talk about it.
When will this air, do you think?
This will air it's actually going to be a few weeks, isn't it? About 3 weeks. 3
weeks. Well, in 6 weeks, so that's all right. Which will probably be about 3 weeks from this. On March 22nd, probably better to give the date. It was the party that I mentioned, which was me, a guy called Wallace, and a guy called Galagos, who are 2 of the most exciting DJs I've encountered, and 2 who I feel play similar to me. But basically, the venue's been asking me to do the community's been asking me to do an all-nighter for ages, and I keep on bottling it. So this is the closest I was going to do for an all-nighter, so I'm doing an all-night back-to-back with those guys. So
cool.
Honestly, it's been the one subject we've talked about a lot, and a lot of subjects we could have talked about. So if you've been listening, you should come down and check that out firsthand. So that opens at 7 p.m. in the sleepy seaside town of North Shields, northeast England, on March the 22nd. And other than that, there's no one I want to talk about. Just like I like waffling shite, and you've given us the opportunity to do that for an hour. So thank you.
No, I really appreciate you coming down, Geoff. It's been lovely to see you again, and I think just keep doing what you're doing with King Street Social. I think it's a fantastic thing, and I am actually going to come on the march. I've just in my head there. I've just been thinking I've got anything on, and I haven't. You in Ibiza, we might be actually recording more episodes if you are back. You should come, but I'm going to come.
Yeah, definitely.
I haven't seen my mum in ages either, so I probably should go and see her.
It must be good for a family.
I've not been up there for years, and my 2 pals who were from up there, they've moved away now. They live away, so it's a good reason to go back up there.
Definitely.
Get stuff at Greg's Pasta.
Well, forget the Greg's Pasta. We've got like just around the corner, we've got like Jay Rayner, and I can't remember who else it was, his favourite food place in the whole of the UK, which is Riley's Fish Shop, and their fish shack, and it's on the beach.
I've been to Riley's, of course. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So, but what I would say is it's very popular. So if you are going to come down, I'd book your table.
Brilliant.
Okay, right.
And I've just done an inadvertent advert for Adam Riley. Adam, I'll be asking you for some money for that. But yeah, been a pleasure. Really enjoyed talking.
Brilliant.
Cheers, Geoff.
Yeah, thanks, Geoff.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.